Going to do today is we're going to go through Matthew chapter 27, maybe the resurrection narrative of Matthew as well. We kind of do this usually around Advent and Christmas. We kind of go through the Christmas story. And so I figured here, as we approach Holy Week in just a few days, that kind of going through the crucifixion narrative and talking about it, I think would be a good practice for us to do. Now, it's not the whole crucifixion narrative, it's just part of it, but Matthew 27 is a good bit of it. So to catch you up on what happens in Matthew chapter 26 is 26 is the Last Supper, Judas getting the money to betray Jesus. And remember, Jesus says on the Last Supper that you will betray me. And they're like, oh, not. They clutch their pearls. No, not me. And so Jesus then institutes the meal, institutes the Last Supper. What is interesting about that is that the betrayer is at the supper. I think that's incredibly important for us to see. That is that, and I would say the betrayer is all of them. Over there, we kind of tend to throw a lot of flack at Judas.
What do you mean by that?
Are you a chapter?
We're all betrayers. Did Peter not betray Jesus?
Didn't they all leave?
Did they all leave?
Away?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back and look at it.
Well, no, I get it. Says they all ran away.
Yeah. So hold on.
Well, they denied him too.
Yeah. They so. Oh my goodness.
They betrayed the
Yeah.
I get to church.
So,
Yeah.
so I'll read. So this is from chapter 26, beginning with the 31st verse. Then Jesus said to them, "All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd of the sheep of the flock and will be scattered. But after I've been raised, I will go ahead of you before you to Galilee." Right? And Peter answered and said to him, "Even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble." That's and Jesus said, "Assuredly I say to you tonight, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter said, "Even if I have to die with you, even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all the disciples said the same. And all the disciples go. So that denial and the betrayal and all that stuff, I really push all those together. And so then they go into the garden and
they sleep.
And they fall asleep. We did that. We talked about that on there. Then the arrest and we kind of talked about this on Sunday, but somebody picks up a sword. Matthew doesn't name who picks up a sword. That's a big deal. And then Jesus says to Judas when he kisses him, he goes, "Friend, why have you come?" He says, or the King James says, "Friend, why have you come?" The other English translations say, "Friend, come to do what you were here to do," right? So then let's see here. And I like the phrase that Jesus says, "Put your sword in its place, for all who will take up the sword will perish by the sword." I think you're seeing some betrayal there, and how it's not named who it is. I don't think it's there to protect. I think it's meant to envelop the feeling of all, that they are taking up the way of evil in order to protect Jesus. And he's like, nope, you're not going to do that. And let's see. And Jesus basically says, "My Father is so much more powerful than your measly ability to pick up the sword," and yet he's not doing it. Like that. That's and then read the end of. Well, I'll read verse 56. But all this is done to make the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. And then here in the King James it said, and all the disciples forsook him and fled. Like they all betrayed him. Like that's like we give a lot of flack to Judas. Matthew does not give the flack to Judas.
This is the completion of an arc which started when the disciples were young.
Yeah.
They were feckless then,
Mhm.
and they've been consistently feckless
Yeah.
right up to the point of crucifixion.
Yeah.
We're waiting for them to redeem themselves from this fecklessness.
Yeah. Yeah. And they just don't. And they don't. But notice they were at the Last Supper. They were there. They were there. And then we see the sham trial. And Caiaphas, and the big point of last week's sermon was, that Jesus basically calls Caiaphas the horned beast. We won't say it a certain way, like the horned beast, the big super mega beast. Basically calls him that, and then it all kind of ends with Peter denying Jesus and weeping bitterly. So what I want to do is we're actually going to start reading at the end of at verse 69 of chapter 26. We'll start listening there, and then we'll listen to all of 7. And 27, I mean, 26 to 27. And the reason why I want to do that is Peter connects Judas's story with Peter's. And I think we often don't do that work because there's a chapter break. So I want us to kind of just read it through, because I think you see there are 2 denials or two kind of things going on at the same time. And one of the things I want to talk about is I think there's this redemptive arc of Judas, and so we can talk about and see what your opinions are about that. So, all right, here we go. Let's hit this button. Hit this button. Here, go back to 26. They must be making smoothies next door today. That's and so here we go.
Now Peter sat outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him.
You also were with Jesus of Galilee.
But he denied it before them all.
I do not know what you are saying.
And when he had gone out to the gateway, another girl saw him and said to those who were there.
This fellow also was with Jesus of Nazareth.
But again he denied with an oath.
I do not know the man.
And a little later those who stood by came up and said to Peter,
Surely you also are one of them, for your speech betrays you.
Then he began to curse and swear.
I do not know the man.
And Peter remembered the word of Jesus.
Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.
So he went out and wept bitterly. When morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people plotted against Jesus to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful, and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders.
I have sinned by betraying innocent blood.
What is that to us? You see to it.
Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed, and went and hanged himself. But the chief priests took the silver pieces.
It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, because they are the price of blood.
And they consulted together and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Therefore that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet.
And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the value of him who was priced, whom they of the children of Israel priced, and gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord directed me.
Now Jesus stood before the governor.
Are you the king of the Jews?
It is as you say.
And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing.
Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?
But he answered him not one word, so that the governor marveled greatly. Now at the feast the governor was accustomed to releasing to the multitude one prisoner whom they wished. And at that time they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them,
Whom do you want me to release to you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?
For he knew that they had handed him over because of envy. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife said to him,
Have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him.
But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitudes that they should ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus.
Which of the two do you want me to release to you?
Barabbas!
What then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?
Let him be crucified!
Why? What evil has he done?
But they cried out all the more.
Let him be crucified!
When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that a tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude.
I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it.
And all the people answered,
His blood be on us,
Blood be on us
and our
on our children!
Then he released Barabbas to them. And when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole garrison around him. And they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. When they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him and mocked him.
Hail, King of the Jews!
Then they spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they took the robe off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to be crucified. Now as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they had come to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull, they gave him sour wine mingled with gall to drink. But when he had tasted it, he would not drink. Then they crucified him and divided his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet.
They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots.
Sitting down, they kept watch over him there, and they put up over his head the accusation written against him, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and another on the left. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads.
You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself.
If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross.
Likewise the chief priests also, mocking with the scribes and elders, said,
He saved others. Himself he cannot save.
If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him.
He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now if you will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God.
Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the land. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice,
Hello, Lama Sabachthani.
that is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Some of those who stood there when they heard that said,
This man is calling for Elijah.
Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed, and offered it to him to drink.
Let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to save him.
And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice, and yielded up his spirit. Then, behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And the earth quaked, and the rocks were split, and the graves were opened. And many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that had happened, they feared greatly.
Truly, this was the Son of God.
And many women who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, were there, looking on from afar, among whom were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joses, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. Now when evening had come, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock. And he rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary, sitting opposite the tomb. On the next day, which followed the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered together to Pilate.
Sir, we remember while he was still alive how that deceiver said, "After 3 days I will rise." Therefore, command that the tomb be made secure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away and say to the people, "He has risen from the dead." So the last deception will be worse than the first.
You have a guard. Go your way. Make it as secure as you know how.
So they went and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone and setting the guard.
Okay. All right. So let's start at the beginning of this chapter with the Judas narrative, and we'll just kind of work our way through. What stood out to him? Nothing?
Why did they take him to that first man, Caius, or whatever his name was? One in the nighttime. Why did they do that? Don't tell you in this chapter, but.
I think I think taking him to Caiaphas, oh yeah, in chapter 26. I think what they're doing is like, there's a couple of things that are mentioned there, like they can't find good witnesses.
Yeah, they
Like
didn't find
that's-
anybody that agreed.
And also, the Romans and the Pharisees are playing hot potato. You take them, you
Yeah,
take them.
nobody wanted to do it.
And this is just another iteration
They were
of.
just passing
Yeah,
And
it out. Hot potato.
and that continues right up to resurrection, where, Pilate says, you take him, but it's Romans who crucify him. Again, there is this back and forth where nobody wants to be involved with this.
That they were the ones doing it.
I think it just shows like that it's kind of a sham trial. They don't have a ton on them. And I think in the cover of night is kind of.
Yeah, so that even that was illegal.
Yeah, they're like rushing it, it's kind of darkness idea, type of thing. So I think you got all those things kind of going on there. Yeah.
They had to give him up to the Romans too.
Yeah.
Because technically, the minute he said he was the Son of God, they could have stoned him for blasphemy.
Yeah.
And that would have remained within their little group. But
Yeah.
instead, probably because of fear of what the crowds would do, they threw him over onto the Romans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Judas at the beginning of 27 here. Then Judas' betrayer, seeing he had been condemned, was remorseful and brought back all the money.
Too little, too late.
Too little, too late. That's.
What would have been his reasoning in the first place?
We don't know.
Do you suppose he asked for forgiveness? Was he forgiven or not?
Well, so let's like what do you think? What do you think? Like he's like the King James here has him saying, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood."
I've never quite understood about Judas.
Yeah.
Jesus said it would be better that you had never been born, or something like that.
Is he talking about Judas?
Well, I don't know. Is he? I don't know.
Oh, I got no.
Continue with your question. We'll work on it.
Okay, so we look at Judas as a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
But he was important to this whole story. And Jesus was God, so Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him.
Yeah.
Okay. But somebody had, did somebody have to do that?
So
Did somebody have to be a betrayer?
So
I mean, poor Judas, right? But God picked Judas for that role.
And this is kind of why we went back before we read 27, is what does Jesus say that the other disciples are going to do? They're all going to, right, over there. Which one of them is kind of first to go away from it?
Peter?
He runs away and cries, but mere verses after Peter runs away and cries, is Judas not doing exactly the same thing?
Yeah. Or
like,
you went back, you bring the money,
Yeah, like that's like it's. I think that's like I've been reading this different since we've gone through this last summer and all that stuff. Because I used to be like, Judas, but like after reading through Matthew a bunch of times, I don't like. I think Judas is being like. That I'm not saying he didn't do it or he did anything bad. I just don't see what he did as all that much worse than the other disciples. Like, he has a physical action with it.
Well, it's kind of like sin. Sin is sin, whether it's a big sin or a little sin.
Aren't we all kind of a Judas?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I wanted to see with this. Like, Peter runs away and weeps out bitterly. And like, what, 10 seconds later, as you're reading it, like Judas is like, I've sinned, and like it's like the same reaction.
Why wasn't he forgiven then? Or was he forgiven? We don't know. But he
So
confessed.
So then he takes the money back, and what do they say to him? Yeah,
Again, everyone is washing their hands.
yeah, they're all washing their hands. Like, it's not my, and like, that's actually a really good point. And I like it too, because it's not the sermon at all. Like, I'm very aware to not preach this week. I'm very aware, like that over there. That it's, I kind of wonder if we have washed our hands of our complicity in some of this stuff sometimes, like by just going, that's what Judas did. And the way I'm reading Matthew is, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, they didn't accept him back. Like, they're just washing their hands of the situation, you know? And that's like that's an interesting metaphor. It's like everyone's kind of looking for these excuses to wash their hands. It's like, oh, it's those people over there are the problem, you know? Like it's those people. I'm not allowing me.
Wouldn't it have been better if it ended though that Judas was forgiven? It's written in here that, you know,
Well, my opinion
because
is,
we're forgiven of all the horrendous sins we do. Again, sin is sin. He betrayed Jesus, but we all do.
Okay, yeah, you want to say something then?
her second sentence was mine. We're all forgiven. We've all sinned, and we're all forgiven. So my opinion, personal opinion, is Judas was forgiven.
But then he took his own life, which in the Catholic Church, I don't know.
Well, I'm not a Catholic.
Well, I know, but that's like, isn't that right? Is it
so where does it say that we're forgiven?
That I'm forgiven?
No, where does it say in the gospel narrative that
Jesus was forgiven?
Well, that Peter and all that stuff were forgiven.
I guess we don't think it was a sinful with him because he wasn't the one that said, this is the guy, he's the one you want to kill.
Mm-hmm. So
when you look at it that way, that sin is worse than the disciples.
I'm not trying to bring doubt on the forgiveness of everybody.
I know.
But it doesn't say it.
Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't say it. But what is said, now we didn't read this, but in chapter 28, what is said, remember, Jesus said before all of this, remember it's this gospel thing we focused on the last 2 weeks on Sunday morning, but take heart, basically, I'm going to go ahead of you, like when I rise, I'm going to go ahead of you to Galilee. And basically what was said is that he meets him in Galilee. Like that's 28 verse 9 and 10.
See, again, the disciples were all there when Jesus came, after he had risen, but Judas wasn't.
And that's the thing. And I think that's why the Catholic Church does what they do with suicide. But it's I'm less inclined to do that. Like, I don't think Judas should have killed himself, because the way I kind of read it, like that's this horribly tragic thing, you know. But like it, and you know, I see Peter weeping bitterly, and Judas's responses are really the same. Now, what happens because Judas did what he did? It says right there at the end. What did they do? Because what did they do?
They bought the potter's field with the 30 pieces and buried them there.
They bought the potter's field. They didn't just accept the money back into the treasury. They're like, oh, it's blood money, we can't. They're like, this is a bad look. But why did Jesus turn over the tables in the temple? Why? Where in the temple grounds were those tables?
Taking advantage of
For the Gentiles, right? And then that was the place where even outsiders could come onto the temple grounds and know that God was for them. Remember what Jesus did right after he turned over the tables? Do you remember what he did? He brought people into the temple courts, into that area, and he healed many with diseases and all of those things, right? It's like Matthew's using this narrative of what Jesus is doing to say that Jesus is actually cleansing the temple. He's using the temple as its intended function, right? Isn't it interesting, at least to me, and I could be wrong about this. But that the temple treasury is actually used for what it's supposed to be used for in the midst of this thing that causes the crucifixion. That compassion and love and healing, like creating a pauper's field for people that would be forgotten. Like it's like a primer for the crucifixion. Like that. It's all this. That's the sermon. I can't say that. Like that. It's this backwards way of looking at it.
And it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful. What? It's the kingdom way. And that first, Mark was so against that when we first did. He goes, that's kind of a stupid phrase. Like, no, dude.
Well, don't ask me where I first heard this.
Yeah.
But
when did you first hear it?
Yeah.
She asked you not to do that.
it kind of gave Judas that he did it because he thought if Jesus was arrested, that Jesus would do something that would prove he was the Son of God.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of people that think that, and that's a very valid thing, because everything that we've been experiencing, they know it's Passover, they know they're in Jerusalem, they keep expecting Jesus to rise up, like all these things. And Judas could have been doing what he's like, let's make him rise up, let's be this thing. And what we end up seeing is that there's actually some remembering of the woe that happened for all that, which is an interesting way of looking at it.
Perhaps this is a new eyes problem I'm raising. This is about betrayal. Betrayal. And what troubles my new eyes is Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. Is Jesus now asking God, and you too? Why have you forsaken me?
Yeah.
Or is that just a new eyes problem? I've always stumbled on that.
So he's quoting something. What's he quoting? Does everyone know?
Psalm
22. 22. Like, there we go. So like that's we're skipping forward a bit, but that's all right. We can talk. Well, that's how I have a feeling that's just how today's going to go. Psalm 22.
Yeah.
Psalm 22. So like if you want to, I have Vince's Bible. So here's how. So what comes after Psalm 22?
23rd.
Good job, everybody. That's become a fun joke. Yeah. Like that's, so what is Psalm 23? Yeah, that's like the Lord is my shepherd, walking through the dark valleys. I think these two Psalms are meant to be kind of understood together. And I think the gospel writers and what Jesus says at the end are intentionally wanting us to see them as together as well, because this is right before the resurrection. But Psalm 22 begins with, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? Why are you so far from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry out by day, you do not answer by night, I am not silent. Yet you are enthroned as a holy one. You are the praise of Israel, and in our fathers put their trust, and they trusted and you delivered them. They cried to you and were saved. In you they trusted and were not disappointed. But I am a worm. I'm not a man. I'm scorned by men, despised by the people. And that's, you kind of get the gist of it. And it's just more of that till you get to the 23rd. where it's like, but the Lord is my shepherd. I lack for nothing.
But so in the garden too, Jesus prayed,
Yeah.
Take this away.
take this cup from me.
Mhm.
So is that his humanity side?
So what I think's going on there is that all like that he is like the sacrificial lamb, that all of the sin is coming on to him, and that is like a manifestation of that just groaning and pain of the world, of why have you forsaken me type of thing.
Isn't there another way?
And I think that groaning there, I think it's doing the same thing that John does in the raising of Lazarus, another resurrection account. The raising of Lazarus, John does the same movement where like that Mary and Martha come up to Jesus and they're basically pounding on his chest, like, if you had only been here, like this wouldn't have happened. You could have put your magic little dust on Lazarus and he wouldn't have died, Jesus, if you had only been here. And Jesus doesn't just go and make it all better. Remember what he does? It's the most short. He wept. Jesus weeps. And that is this different way of looking at it, that God sits in the pain of the world with us.
The human side.
Yeah.
The human side.
Yeah, like that just sits in the pain of the world with us. And I think that's what's going on there. Does that make any sense? Like that's...
Again, I suffer from new eyes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a suffer, but I think that's kind of what's going on with there.
Like you say, you suffer with new eyes, but we all, when we look at this, sometimes it's new eyes. You even said, you're looking at Matthew in a different way.
Yeah, you look at
you've
this
been
stuff.
studying it for.
And also you got to remember, all of this stuff is backwards. Like all these to how, and I think that's kind of the point, is that there's this beauty in it, but it's this backwards look at, because our sin wants this march forward, and it's really kind of backing it up, and we begin to see like the new creation coming across again in the midst of all of it.
Just to someone looking for a chink in the armor.
Yeah.
Even he is doubting.
Yeah, and what's the problem?
On the cross, even he is doubting God.
What's the problem with that?
Jesus doubting God? Well, we are led up to the point where Jesus' belief, he is God, his belief in the Father is consistent. He doesn't, I don't recall any previous comments where he's suddenly doubting the Father. And here at the penultimate critical point, why have you forsaken me?
But he's also quoting something.
I'm still not persuaded. The quote doesn't mitigate his doubt.
But the quote would have been understood by anyone else who knew.
Yeah. And that's why I connect 22 to 23, because in the Christian lexicon, we understand the 23rd Psalm. Like 23rd Psalm is unreal. And then but the thing is, even though people may not have 22 memorized, 22 is the song of a lot of people's hearts.
In one study, we were doing Psalms, and they said Psalm 22 was the cross. Psalm 23 is the crutch.
Yeah.
It kind of made sense at the time.
And I think Jesus on the cross there at the end is singing the song of all of our hearts.
And he's in human form at that time, so he's got all the feelings that.
Well, he's still in human form when he rises too, like that.
You can see where he would be in agony.
Yeah, But and I think that's why they make sure you know it's being quoted, because it's identical. Like that Jesus begins to sing that song of like, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. So
That's the human side.
yeah.
That's to remind us.
Well, like
That he had those feelings himself.
So let's talk about the human side there for a second. We're all saying the human side. Is that not just the God side of it? And that we're seeing who God is and how he loves us. Like the willingness to sit with us in the pain.
Yeah, because that's beyond what we could do.
Like that's it's sitting with the suffering. It's not just a cosmic make better type of thing. This goes back, you gotta remember, I have a super weird view of all this stuff. This goes back to the forgiving challenge that we did a few years back. And I kind of went through that sermon series. I kind of went through an existential crisis on that one. Because that first week we discussed Jesus' resurrection in John, where he comes before Thomas, doubting Thomas, and he still has scars, right? He still has scars. Now, I'm like, what? Because the way I always pictured my resurrected body is that my abs would have abs, like that. Yeah, like that's, like just this Adonis, all these things, and just like all this being, just perfect and all that stuff. But Jesus doesn't come back.
You could be wrong.
I could be wrong about that, all that stuff. But then I started thinking about it. It's like, why does Jesus have scars? Why does he return with the scars? And I started thinking about my own self. And would I want to come back without my scars? Because who I am, scars, is the pain that my empathy, my love of people, and to get rid of that, would I not be just getting rid of myself? You know about that?
Because I think he had the scars so that, well, for doubting Thomas for one thing, but just so that anyone who saw that knew, yeah, he was crucified, he died.
But he's in his resurrected body.
Right.
And that's.
But still, he had those scars so that people could see that, yeah, he did die, and now here he is before us. Personally, I want to come back with a better body.
But he had not ascended yet, so we don't know what he's going to look like.
But there is, yeah.
He wasn't scarred for Thomas's death, so that Thomas would believe.
Not just for him, but for anyone. For the other disciples too. Yeah, he really was crucified and died. They didn't doubt it, but they could still see it. I don't know.
Why only the scars in his hands, his feet, and his side? He was beat up horribly.
Those were the deep ones.
Before they crucified him.
Those were the deep ones. It didn't say the other ones. But
too many bookmarks.
Yeah.
And there's not pictures of them all scarred up like that either, because if I showed images like that, people would go, that's a little much.
Yeah.
And that's, so we sanitize some of this stuff. But that was a crisis that I went
Chapter
through.
3 of 1 John.
Oh, yeah.
The second verse.
What are we reading? There was multiple.
1 John chapter 2.
Like that's, how great is 3:2. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known, but what we know is that when he appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Everyone who has this hope will in him purifies himself, just as he is pure. Do you all have your scars? Like that? But what I mean by that is Jesus is able to heal us completely. And I don't think we're going to lose who we are in the resurrection. And that's and like over there, and I think there's and this is where we will be cosmically okay with it, almost overjoyed with it. Because think about, like, without the sin, you don't have to worry about this. Like, this is just what led me up to now. And then think about how we may look at it. Remember, this is my deflected view. That we're like, man, all those times that I have caused pain, either onto me or onto other people over there, that all that stuff was actually what brought on the salvation, the crucifixion of my Lord. And that we almost take those as, like, it's weird, like almost like an honor type of thing. Is that or to quote, let's see, where is that? This First Peter, isn't it? Like, by his wounds we are healed. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's this backwards looking at it where it is. And we love stories like this when it's not talking about stuff like that. It's like, oh, I met my wife when I got a flat tire, and she was the truck driver that saved me. Whatever, I don't know. You know, like all that. Oh, like that. There's all these stories in the lexicon like that, and it's like, if that had not happened, this wouldn't have happened. You know, like there's. I'm just asking us to go to the next degree with that, and so like that. And I'm not saying that pain isn't there. And I'm not saying that pain is good. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that by that pain, by the pain of Jesus, we are healed. Like that's, like, I think we see that in Judas's account. Like all of a sudden there's this little glimmer. Like it's like when you hold a birthday party for a 5-year-old girl and you're cleaning your house 3 months later and you see a glimmer of glitter on the floor. You know? Like that's like suddenly in the midst of all this darkness, there's like glitter on the floor. You know, like you're seeing like that resurrected light type of idea with that story of Judas. Like does that make any sense? I don't know if it does or not. But that's like, and over there, like, and this is, if I heard me talking like this 4 years ago, I'd be like, you're an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Like all that stuff. Like, so so I could be wrong about it. But
we knew you had a lot to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so, so, what time is it? Jesus is before Pilate.
9 minutes.
Yeah, Jesus is before Pilate in the Barabbas narrative. This is getting close to the sermon, but we'll watch out for it. What we've been talking about with what Judas did and how it all rectified, how is that any different with the cries for Barabbas?
Say that again.
So I'm being real coy because I don't like it's.
You want to do the sermon.
I don't want to do the sermon, and we're so close to it, but we're staying away from it. Grow up. Like that's an absurd statement.
So many.
Yeah. Judas betraying Jesus the way he did. And it's been a long-standing theology inside the Christian church that those cries of them who wanted Barabbas Those cries of crucify were our own cries, right? So we think about Barabbas, like that, that's,
It occurs to me, we sing a hymn, which our voices are part of those scoffing.
Yeah.
That's an actual lyric.
Yeah.
Again, we are part of the crowd.
We're part of the crowd. We're part of the crowd that.
But the hymn says we recognize it and we're in despair that we are in part of the crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's true, and just like Judas was in despair about it, you know, but by what Judas did, we get the act of salvation, and by our cries of crucify, we get the act of salvation. Like it's this kind of the what?
It's like Moroni's wheel.
Yeah.
You know, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly crucified, but he's constantly saving.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's.
It's like black and white. You can't have one without the other.
Mm. Yeah. Like so, like that. Like it's this thing, and this is why we say in the church, in the theology realms, we call it the saint-sinner paradox. That at the same we are sinner, but at the same time we are saint. You know, and it's this heavy, weighty idea that all of this matters. You know, but we're constantly being saved out of it. You know, like and that's why I think it's so important that Matthew is dragging us into the story, and I think he drags us to the cross where Jesus. I liked how we said that a little bit ago, that Jesus sings that song that's all in our hearts. Why this forsakenness? Like, why have you abandoned, you know? Like, he drags us all in. Like, none of the disciples live up to their potential. You know, none, like, that's, you know, like, everybody fails. Now, there are some, we only have a couple minutes here, and this is getting real close to the sermon, but that'll be all right. That'll be all right. Is who, in this narrative, who is saying the right thing? Pilate, there's someone close to Pilate that says, his wife. All right, I'm going to reveal part of the sermon to you.
Before you,
all right, yeah, because I'm super excited about it.
Before you give the reveal.
Yeah.
Her comment is, don't mess around with this guy. But we don't know whether she's saying it for Pilate's sake, or for her own sake, or for whose sake.
Well, what
she's
is
saying this guy is trouble.
What is? Well, that's. She didn't say this guy's trouble. What is she seeing?
He's innocent.
Well, all right. What verse is it? What verse?
Not a dream.
She's having a dream. So, it's verse 19 and 27. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him a text message. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is. It's actually written. like that. That's have nothing to do with this just man, for I've suffered many things today in a dream because of it. Like suddenly we get all this Old Testament, how God speaks language. And who is, like, I'm looking for a general answer. Who is Pilate's wife? I'm looking for general.
His conscience?
What?
His conscience?
Conscience? I don't know the conscience. I'm not going that general. I'm not going 50 Disney in the 50s. Like is she an insider or an outsider?
Outsider.
She's an outsider. Like, and she's like one of the lone ones that's standing up for him, right? Like, so this is the move we do at the beginning of the sermon this week. What were the Magi at the beginning of Jesus' story in Matthew? They're outsiders. Who wants to kill Jesus in the beginning of the story with Herod? It's the Jewish king. So you have these foreigners who come and bow before Jesus at the beginning of Matthew's gospel, right? And the Jewish leaders wanting to kill him. How is that any different than what's going on now? Like over there, like it was like what craziness, right? Craziness. And so suddenly you have like the nations of the world that are like speaking the truth about Jesus. Like that's so you have this outsider and the people that should be getting it are just blind. Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful. And it's beautiful. It's backwards. And it's beautiful.
We'll leave it there.
It's the kingdom way, right? Like that's and so then the one thing we wanted to do in the sermon that we didn't do is, and the reason why is because Luke quotes it, but it's this idea of the rocks crying out. Are you? Yeah, it's probably next door. It's this idea that rocks, like it's like all these dumb rocks are crying out type of idea. And so like here, I don't know. Did anyone have anything else they want to talk about with all of this? Like so, but I think you see all this like backwardsness, you know, this like, but it's this beautiful story that takes us into the depths of ourselves and the depths of our real nature of our sin and brings us out of it, as Jesus says, I'll see you in Galilee and on the other side, you know, and that is the thrust of the forgiveness. It's the resurrection. I don't know if I want to say this. I'm going to say it though. And I hope I don't. All right, here we go.
Not gonna get out of here.
Oftentimes the Christian hope that is expressed, I think, is an improper one, and that is death. That if I could just be free of this physical body, then I would be able to be in glory, right? That death throughout all of Scripture is the problem. And we know it's the problem. We deal with that problem every funeral. Because people try to make ourselves feel better. It's like, oh, they're in a better place. And like when you're facing that loss, you're like, no. And I like that because your soul is quoting Psalm 22 there. Like it's like, why have you forsaken me? Why is this person gone? You know? Like we know it's bad. And that's why there's so much hope in the resurrection. Because in the resurrection, that just like what we just quoted in 1 John there, that just as Jesus rose again, we too will rise. And that's why I was kind of taking issue about this is his human side. Because in Jesus, in the combining of those two, of the Godhead and all of that stuff, you see who God is and what's important to God. And your body, your resurrection is important to God.
When we die, our sin dies. No?
Like, okay, I'm going to say something that's going to hurt some feelings. You guys ready? In the fall in the garden, what is the result of the fall?
Sin.
Death. You surely won't die. That's what the devil says.
Right.
Death is the problem. And so, and our sin is constantly leading to death, right? It's constantly leading to death. And this is going to hurt some feelings, and I feel bad that I've done it at the end of Bible study. When we die, it's almost like the sin has fully enveloped us. But
then we rise.
But we quote Paul. You ready? We quote Paul. But we are with Jesus, right? And we look forward to the resurrection where heights or depths, nor things present, nor things to come, death or anything else can be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. And I think that's why there's so much pain when we face the loss of someone. That deep in the midst of our soul, we know that there's pain, there's a separation there. But that's what the hope in the resurrection is. And so, as a church body, I don't really talk about this too much anymore. I need to bring it back into my lexicon on Sundays. But when we go to the table, to the communion table, what the Christian understanding of communion is that it is a singularity place in time. That all who have gone before and all who go afterwards are at that table together. So dear old Uncle Chester, that you remember who died when you were 3 and you barely have a memory of him and stuff like that, he is at that table with us, like the whole body of Christ. And your great-great-great-grandchildren, are there as well. That we are all the body of Christ together, at that together, because communion is a feast of the resurrection. And we celebrate that we are all raised. So death is the problem. And we look forward to the resurrection. And the Christian hope is that we sit in the midst of the resurrection knowing that it is ours and that not even death itself can separate us from Christ. That we may fall completely to our sin and our death, and even in that, we are still held by Christ. And that's what I think is happening when we say in the creed, and he descended into hell. That idea there is Jesus. This is Chris Escher coming out here. There are people that disagree with me on this. But I think that is Sheol, that is saying that he descended to the grave, that he was actually dead, and that he rose again. Peter speaks about it in his letters and things like that. So that's kind of, that's where we go. So we know that we are in Jesus' hands the whole time, and that he goes to the depths of sin for us. And the curtain in the temple is torn when that happens. That separation, and in the death of Jesus, it's almost like God is on the loose in the midst of creation. So yeah. So I don't know. Any other questions? Concerns? This is the first time we've talked about this with you guys. Like that. That's over there. We can talk more about it if you want. That's but it's this is a seat of hope.
Well, see,
you guys.
Yeah. See, that's why I said when we die, our sin dies because we're going to be resurrected.
Yeah.
And forgiven.
Yeah.
So
the resurrection happens. The resurrection is a physical resurrection.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we just sleeping until that happens?
There's different. So there are. This says precious little about what happens when you die.
Well, Pastor up home says so and so is entered glory.
Yeah.
So our soul.
So they say enter glory. I say they are with Jesus. Because I think I don't think the inner glory is a biblical statement. I think now that doesn't mean your pastor saying is wrong.
I'm going to tell him no.
Please do not.
Pastors are not wrong, just so you know.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that.
I know.
But if you ever hear me say we are with Jesus. Jesus has not left or forsaken them.
And you are going to love the ending of my new book.
Oh yeah. Like that. That's yeah. So like that, because it's all this stuff. Because you've grown up in the Lutheran Church. We've had tons of conversations about this over the years, and the way that I look at it, for me, allows me to be like, It's okay. It's okay. You know, I'll be okay. He's got the whole world in his hands. You know, to quote something else there, you know, and that they are with Jesus. So it says precious little about what happens when we die, but it talks all the time about when we will all rise, and that we'll have this, and it will be good. It's basically a recreation of the garden. The garden looks like a city. That's how Revelation presents it, and all the tears will be wiped away because the old order of things has passed away.
So maybe that's not the important part.
What's the important part?
What happens when you die?
I don't know.
Are you with Jesus? Are you?
You're with Jesus.
You're with Jesus.
That's the term I use. You are with Jesus, because that's what it says in there. Yeah, that's all it says there.
Right.
I don't. This is a physical resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
What about those that are cremated?
Yeah. So, if it's a physical resurrection, what about the people that were buried 1,000 years ago in the ground too?
People that
Like that's,
blown up in bombs.
yeah, blown up in bombs and all these things. So in the 1800s, some of you have probably dealt with that. You guys, some of you are old enough. The LCMS's stance on cremation used to be against it.
Right.
Yeah. And the reason why, they said it's because we believe in the resurrection. And what was happening in the 1800s, there was a group of atheists that had gotten really popular, like, we are going to get cremated as a testament to that there is not a resurrection. So there was like thumb in their nose at the thing. So all these Christian churches created statements that they are against cremation. We've practiced cremation for a long time. And all of those things. It was a response to a group of people in the late 1800s. What was that? And stuff history gets forgotten and stuff like that. I think we will be okay. You might be a little ashy, I don't know. Like that, but that's, these are things that I don't know. But this is, I just kind of look at this and see what it says.
Have a great
You turned to dust.
Yeah, you came from dust. Yeah, see, that's a great example. Like God created Adam out of dust.
You make the universe. What are you worried about?
Yeah. And so like that's all these things. What are you worried about? Yeah.
My children cremation, and I can't say it.
So we figure
He's gonna say.
that's our last chance for a smoking hot body.
Oh yeah, there you go.
He's counting on it coming for you.
No, I think
I love that one. For a flaming hot body. Either one.
Me personally, I like cremation. Because we're so good at keeping records. I don't know if I want a place in the earth where my body will rest until those records go away.
Exactly.
Like that. That's me personally. Like that is not. I think how everyone else should feel about it or something like that.
Well, that's how we feel about it, but our daughter has different ideas.
Yeah.
We actually bought a cemetery plot because Rebecca about lost it, and we said, just spread our ashes. Or you decide what to do with our ashes. And she's like, Mom, we'll be too upset.
So I told Coley, I'm giving Coley what my last wishes are. I want her to sneak me onto the front of a roller coaster. And let me out on the first hill and sneak. I want it to be at a big theme park. I want to travel the world. Yeah. Like that. So that's.
We have friends whose uncle was cremated, but he wanted his ashes spread on his wife's grave.
Yeah.
So they decided to do that, which is illegal. You're not really supposed to just. So they did. And everybody had on dark suits, navy blue. It was a windy day.
So here's my advice if you are dumping ashes somewhere. Have someone with you that knows what they're doing. And
against the wind.
And be mindful of the wind. Be mindful of the wind. And just do it. people want this like really like pretty like thing. The problem is a lot of pretty landscapes usually have wind. Just do it, or it's gonna go everywhere, and like and all of that stuff. So like that's yeah. I recommend the charter boats that take you out into the ocean. They do a great
We
job.
did that with my sister.
They do a great job.
A couple years ago. She wanted to be on the water.
Yeah, they do a great job. So, all right, I think we went kind of full circle there.
Yeah, speaking of being forgotten, though. We have grave sites, and they are in a cemetery of a church that was founded in the early 1700s.
Oh, man.
They have two cemeteries. They have, quote, new cemetery and the old cemetery. The old cemetery, about half of it, there's maybe no gravestones at all. Those that are there are just field stones that are laying over. There was a fire in the church. They have no idea who's there.
Oh, really?
They have no idea who's there.
Oh, man.
Well, our old house where I grew up, there were stepping stones that went up to the door, and my mom decided to reset them. They were headstones. So somewhere in that property.
That's why I'm like these records, records like last so long. All right. So like everyone that's watching on YouTube, thank you. We lost Karen a little bit ago.